Okay, I'm going to call to order the specially called City Council meeting on Tuesday, June 11th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Go ahead and call the roll, please.
Anderson.
Here.
Berry.
Here.
Cahill.
Here.
Delar.
Here.
Marcier.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Mensch.
Here.
Rolfs.
Here.
Mayor.
Here.
9 present.
All right, I know it's specially called, but why don't we stand and do the pledge anyway? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, only one topic on this, and this is the K Street, Walnut Street Storm Sewer Separation Improvement Low Interest Loan. We've had some news on this and why we delayed it to June. And I'm going to let Keith or Lauren, or Keith and or Lauren, kind of give the details, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring this back to everybody so that you guys would, like the mayor said, there's been some information from the EPA. Some of the projects that scored higher than the city have not gone through. They're not going to be constructed this year with the state fund. So the state has come back and said that they would offer the $3 million low-interest loan that you guys had passed a couple of months ago. And with that, the debt principal forgiveness would also increase by a couple of $100,000. So originally, our principal forgiveness for the K Street project was $1,057,000, and it can go up to $1,350,000. So they've added a couple $100,000 extra of principal forgiveness in there. I figured that was something that, you know, you guys needed to hear and know and, you know, decide what you want to do forward. What they have right now in their draft report that'll be finalized probably next month is $1.125 million in principal forgiveness. So what they're offering now, basically this month it'll end because the cycle starts in July, is about $300,000 more than what they had previously offered, and it's about $200,000 more than what they have scheduled. It's more than what be next year.
Yeah.
So next year you'd be getting about $200,000 less in principal forgiveness.
Okay, so let's run through the basic numbers one more time if we could.
So overall, the project with construction and engineering is about $3 million.
Okay,
If we were to approve this project today, we would get 1.35 debt forgiveness, $1,350,000 off that $3 million total.
Okay.
So we're still on the hook for almost $1.7 million on a low interest loan.
okay, and that had an increase of about $1.2 million since this thing started a couple years ago, right?
So let's rewind a little bit before
Okay.
my time. I think this started in 2019-ish. This project kicked off to remove the storm water that's going in our sanitary sewer off of about a 2-block stretch on Walnut from the railroad tracks to about Dollar General.
Okay,
I think there was some estimates back then about $1.7 million, looking back through some notes. Obviously, that was quite some time ago. Inflation's hit hard in all of
Material
our
costs have
economy.
gone up.
Material, labor, everything has skyrocketed. So, unfortunately, the bid came in higher than our even most recent engineering estimates. We have talked to the contractors a little bit, and they did adjust the bypass pumping cost, but we're still at the $1.7 million low interest loan for this project.
okay, and I don't know, I think it might have been you, Dennis, as far as floodwaters.
So
I don't know if you want to reiterate that.
As long as I can remember, there's never been any water issues at all whatsoever between the railroad crossing and Casey's, or for that matter, as far as West Hickory. And then between then and now, everyone wants to keep in mind, down at the sewer plant, we have all 3 rings operating now, where when this was started, we only had 1 ring operating. So it's at full capacity right now, and it can withstand a lot of rainwater before we ever get into an issue with it.
I think
Yeah,
I've been told that we're oversized for a town our size, even when we were at 58 almost 6,000, that plant could be picked up and taken to north to Kankakee and maybe do a good job on a good part of their town. So,
Yeah, full capacity of the plant is able to withstand that additional stormwater coming into our sanitary sewer. Yeah, the city, I believe they invested already $600,000 or $700,000 into the rehabilitation sewer plant. I know I finished that up after I had started. You know, we're slowly making other repairs there, but at this point, we're at full capacity at the Ox Ditch, the lagoon, and the first flush station. So I'm assuming this project came around because you guys were struggling with the capacity at the wastewater plant. And I think at this point,
well, all the stuff that had gotten in there had set up like concrete
you know,
in the rings that weren't being worked. Okay, and just to kind of refresh memories, it seemed like we were talking that another viable project would be extending, and I know that's getting, and I won't get off of this subject too much, but extending that main, I know there, and I forget who was saying, ERH told us there's like 20 to 30 repairs, patches, just from Route 1 to the tracks. Does that sound right?
Yeah, you're talking about.
I'm talking about a water main, and we're talking about moving into a different phase of working that, repairing or replacing that water main. Is that right?
Is a sewer,
so this project with the storm sewer and separation here, there are some other components there to that project. I think there's some sanitary sewer that was going to be replaced that I think we still need to look at one way or the other along K Street,
Okay.
whether it's lining or just excavation
okay.
and replacement. So we still have some work in this project that needs to be done. But as far as the best use of our dollars, I don't know if this is really it, in my opinion, now that the wastewater plant is at full capacity. The small amount of stormwater you're removing off of Walnut, we've probably have replaced or removed 10 times that much in the last month with 3 water main repairs. So, I mean, I think, like you said, with the water system having so many issues with our distribution, I think tightening that up would probably reduce some of our water leaks that are leaching into our sanitary sewer. And there's other projects that you can, you know, on a smaller cost, like sealing manholes, either, you know, some sewer lining, we could probably spend some money on and see larger results. I think unfortunately this project came in so high, it's pretty tough to.
Is best advice reject this? Is that what everybody's thinking?
yeah.
Keith, on the engineering, I see $230,000 for design and construction, and I guess that's for engineering.
Yes.
Okay, is any of that able to be used towards that sewer replacement or lining?
That's already been permitted for replacement. So if the city wants to do it or have it contracted, that is permitted and can be done separately.
Okay. Because that's something way I understand, needs to be done. And something we should probably be looking at least getting that sanitary sewer repaired in one shape or another.
And this project can stay on the shelf and we can try again later for, you know, more debt forgiveness. I mean, it's not like the plans are just throw it away. It's a complete waste of time and money. You know, we can keep it on the shelf and revisit this down the road if we can get more debt forgiveness or better bids, or, you know, the economy turns the other way and prices on material drop, and we can look at this again in the future.
And there's still more repairs to be done down at the disposal plant, and there's still a little over 300,000 left in that bond for those repairs also.
So with our future permit coming up, I believe we're going to see phosphorus limits hit that permit. So we're going to be forced to treat for phosphorus at the wastewater plant. We're over a 1 million gallon per day plant. The EPA has been hitting every larger wastewater plant with phosphorus limits. So that entails more sludge removal, probably some chemical addition to help bind up all the phosphorus. So we're going to be seeing some improvements needed to meet our future permit requirements. We'll be given probably about 3 years once the new permit hits next year. But yeah, we're probably gonna see some cost over there between probably a digester rehab, some improvements on the sludge drying beds, chemicals. There's a couple other options we have there, but those are probably the cheapest routes to go versus adding on to the oxidation ditch.
Any other comments? Okay, so is everybody in agreement that we will reject the bids? I guess let's go through and do a motion process. Anyway, I know we're not spending money, but we are rejecting a bid.
I'll make a motion that we table the bid for now.
Roll call when you're ready, ma'am.
Anderson.
Aye.
Rolfs.
Aye.
Marcia.
Aye.
Delar.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Cahill.
Aye.
Mensch.
Aye.
Bergery.
Aye.
Roll call carried.
So since we're tabling that, I would like to move forward with going out to bid to replace the asphalt on North Street from last year's project. That's been held up due to this K Street project. So, well, now that we have an answer and a clear direction on where we're going, now we need to move forward with that. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware. We're going to go out to bid then ASAP to try to get that street repaired.
Yep.
Plus, you repaired the water leak, the 4-inch water leak that
And
was
yes,
there.
we've recently repaired the water leak that has been hanging out there. It's been a mysterious leak that surfaced about a month ago. It disappeared. We chased it down, finding it was entering our storm sewer. It was almost in front of Dennis's house. I found the leak all the way up by the tracks using some personal sound devices I have, which we were able to pinpoint almost down to the foot of where it was. We did a joint effort with IPC. We replaced about 6 foot of water main. It was on the old 4-inch water main just outside of the old valve that was left during that last year's construction project due to some issues with the subcontractor.
And there was some, what, I-beams or something?
Yeah, they had to drive I-beams down behind that 4-inch water valve, which I believe
They being IPC.
ultimately probably created an issue with that water main. So that's why we did a joint effort to repair that. IPC stepped up and put in their
Good.
effort as well.
Thank them for us, if you would, please. All right, I believe that is it as far as the special called meeting, so I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, it's 6:44. I'm going to call to order the public safety meeting for June 11th, 2024. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Bergery.
Here.
Cahill.
Here.
Delar.
Here.
Rolfs.
Here.
Mensch.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Marcia.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Mayor.
Here.
9 present.
Okay, any public comment?
Okay.
Not hearing any. We'll move on. We will go to the auxiliary report. Eric?
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Last month, no emergency call-outs. However, we did attend, 2 of us, at the Watsika High School for the graduation on the 24th. During that process, we made ourselves present in the entire facility from start to finish to make sure everybody was safe and behaving, and saw some presence of police. During our meeting, we had all attend but 3. We did go over the current events. We also started talking about the expectations at the 4th of July parade, which will be obviously on the 4th of July. And we also, I have an opening for supervisory position. Sergeant position's been open quite some time since the retirement of Mark, and I stepped up. The lieutenant is still in place. He's not doing very well with some health issues. I've talked to him a little bit, but I do need some help in supervisory, so we are interviewing those who had interest in getting into the sergeant position. We have a preliminary decision, but we need, for all fairness, we need to speak with one other person, and that has not been done yet. I'm waiting to meet with him on off hours. Like I said, there were none any call-outs for us for to assist anything in emergency in May. And that was pretty much all we had going on. Any questions for me?
You can make that decision on your own, correct? You don't have to come to another meeting and get our approval, right?
Correct,
Whoever else you want to bring on your staff.
correct.
Unless you want a ceremonial.
Yeah,
If you want a ceremonial vote, which that's some people
I
like
thi-
that, that's fine.
I appreciate that, because that's generally what I'd like to do, is bring in
Okay.
that individual. Welcome to the committee.
I mean, you're coming anyway, so
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right,
we
anything
can
else?
definitely do that. I just wanted to leave that open for you.
I appreciate that. That would be all
All
for
right.
me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, fire department report, Captain.
You can tell we had 56 calls for service last month. The training's down what we did. We had 6 personnel graduate the fire academy, which is a 240-hour course, and those firemen were Dakota Schroeder, Tommy Woodby, Matthew Sticknott, Rusty Coolman, Nate Douglas, and Tony Coates. That's on their own time. I mean, that's pretty tremendous, I think, on the guys themselves. That was,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say 6 to 9 months that they were dedicating weekends and stuff. So
And that was where?
Streeter,
Streeter?
yeah.
Well, that's
So
to drive over.
yeah, it's a drive over. I mean, it's time away from their families, and
And you know what? I'm going to throw this out there like we did with Auxiliary. If you want to bring them in and introduce them, by
Yeah.
all means, when we have Carla here, we can get some pictures in the paper. Same with you, sir,
okay.
and stuff with your, you know, let's pump it up.
Yeah.
So,
And then firefighter John Witzman passed his hazmat ops, which was a 40-hour course. And firefighter Ryan Burton got his advanced firefighter certificate. So that was
tell them
another-
all congratulations and thanks for the good work and the extra work, and said he appreciates it.
Will do, sir. Inside Station 2 was painted. There was 4 home inspections done. All the city's AEDs were serviced for the year and cabinets ordered and put up. Would like to recognize Hicks Gas donated a pallet of water to us for training and fire calls. And then RP Lumber donated some packets of Gatorade for us to put in it.
Good.
So that's all I have.
Okay, good job.
Good, thank you.
Fire and Police Commission report. That is not here, so we will move to Police Department report. And
Evening. May's numbers, 379. I believe I put a copy of a breakdown in everybody's box. That way everybody has a question, any questions. Those numbers this month were up approximately 30 calls compared to almost actually 40 calls more than we had last month. Just for something to reconsider always. Just remember that these calls are how the calls come into ICOM. So these calls are not a true reflection of actually hypothetically what we may have been dealing with. So if we got called, let's say the search warrant we had, that search warrant that we executed and made those arrests, that call came as, on this thing as like a warrant served. But it doesn't give us credit, so say, of everything that came out of that. So it's literally a kind of a one-dimensional picture of everything we do, but these are just calls that come into ICOM and the way that they're logged. So just to kind of give everybody an idea. So any questions, comments?
It's still better than just a number.
Correct.
So I appreciate the report.
And like I said, going forward, my intention was to try to supply you guys with these every month. So if you guys want to, hopefully I'll have these in your box either on Friday before the city council meeting or by Monday. You guys, if you guys have time to go through there on your own and individually look at those numbers and want to do a comparison compared to what the numbers were the previous month, and you guys have questions at this meeting and so forth, you can ask then. So, Mayor?
Chief, I'm going to take a little bit of liberty here, and you can shut me off instantaneously. But you and I had talked about a situation with one of our common high flyers,
Correct.
and you had talked with some legal represent. I'm going to call them judges,
Correct.
and there were multiple arrests
Correct.
made.
Correct.
But yet, as far as what was brought to court, and I forget what the multiple arrests were. Was it
Right.
26?
We've had numerous contacts, I'm going to call them, with
Okay.
frequent individuals over and over.
But you had one in particular that just amazed me.
Correct. And when I was out there conferring with legal people out there at the courthouse, it was brought to my attention that out of all those arrests, apparently only one case, one set of charges were actually brought up. So I just want, hopefully, the council and the community to know we're out there making these arrests. We're out there generating the reports. But once we bring them to the jail and we process them there at the jail, it's out of our hands as to what the
But
next
you've
step.
done your job. That's the thing I'm trying to emphasize is our guys have done their job.
Right.
And I thought you said 26. 26
don't know.
contacts, arrests. It was something over 20.
It probably was. It was probably
And
somewhere
two
around
of them, and it was the same arrest, right?
Right. It was the same arrest that the criminal charges were actually filed on one
So
incident.
behind the scenes, I'm just putting it out there that our guys are doing the job.
Right.
And, you
It's-
know,
it's
it gets out of
repetitious-
their control
Right.
after.
It's repetitious to us, but it's part of our job that we do every day.
And
So,
I understand the frustration there might be.
Unfortunately, we understand. It's unfortunate that the citizens of the community don't understand, but our hands are tied, just like what I made a little bit reference to earlier where we did that search warrant on that residence. And we located the narcotics and the cash and everything else, and we took that individual to jail. I would say within an hour, that subject was back on the street.
And I know that's frustrating. Before you get off shift, I can certainly understand that
I can
and
tell
empathize
you,
with you.
it took the primary officer that handled that that case, so say, he probably put literally 2 to 3 days of work into it, doing the paperwork, the returns on the search warrant, and so forth like that. And how frustrating is that for these guys? But unfortunately, we know that's part of our job every day. But that's what's being done behind the scenes. That, he was there probably till 6 o'clock that next morning processing the paperwork. On his next day in work, he was up at the office doing that. He came in he got paid overtime, but he had to come in to continue doing that paperwork. So,
But only
it wasn't-
two were brought to court.
only
correct.
one was brought.
Only
to
brought
court.
one because it was two charges same. Okay.
Right. So,
So to me, that's huge information.
but yeah. So, I wish I could give you a better scenario of picture of everything that we do and we don't do and different things. But this is the reality of what I can supply to you and what I can tell you. So.
No, I'm just going to go through a story I had when we were talking about the whole municipal court and giving, code and you guys another tool. But one officer brought a big stack of tickets issued. Well, that was dropped, whatever.
Not like Prost.
Dropped, not processed, that stack was like that big.
Right.
So our guys are doing the job.
Right. Our guys are out there doing their job.
And we may have you switch over to municipal where we can have a little more say-so and play.
Some of
Just
those,
thinking,
right.
we got to talk about it.
Some of those we can, some of those can't. Obviously, if they're felonies, we're
Right.
gonna go with that. Some of them,
And I know moving violations you can't.
right. In some of these cases where we get people for trespassing, loitering, and so forth like that, those are different people that if we try to bring them to municipal court to simply issue a citation to them for a fine, they have no source of income because they have no residency. So literally, the only thing we can do is try to hold things up in regular county court to hold them accountable there, and that may be being detained or sitting in a county cell somewhere.
Right. So just trying to cover some of the inaccurate information that's
Right.
being pumped out there.
So, any other questions on numbers and activity? And mine's fairly quick then. So the next thing I got on here is. We partook with the fire department, I believe, the sheriff's department, Crescent City Ambulance. We did a tabletop active shooter scenario with IEMA, with Scott Anderson's office. It's something that we're working on with today's events and today's, way things are. We want to try to get prepared for something like that. So we had a little meeting here about 2 weeks ago with the so say the department heads and so forth like that. So we're working on working out where a scenario drill of some sort with IEMA. So, but we took part in that. And the only other thing I really have is that, just to let you guys know, we're doing an upgrade on our server with our IT people. Basically, it's going to allow us, with our body cams and car cams, right now, when we have to send those out to the courthouse, we have to burn them to DVDs. It's kind of the old-fashioned way. We got to burn it to a DVD and then physically take that out there and give it to them. We can create a link between the courthouse and us, where when we download the cameras into the system, we can set a link to the state's attorney's office, and they can download it remotely, and then they can have access to it. It cleans things up. It makes things a little bit more official, so forth. But I think when I talk to Jason, the IT guy, I think it's going to be a couple $100, and we'll use money out of the CURE grant for that. So, in case you see the PO comes across. But that's all I have, unless anybody else has any questions.
The body cams are very useful. They're proving.
The body cams are great. And I don't get a lot of them, but I had a situation where I had a resident come in today to discuss what their options were pertaining to an incident that took place yesterday afternoon. And during the course of that, they made a comment about, they kind of felt like they weren't treated properly, but at the same time, they made comments where they recognized that they let the worst aspect of themselves come out at the same time. So I said, we were sitting in my office, and I said, well, if you want to, I can pull that body cam up right now, and we can go over it and discuss it. And they chose not to because they were embarrassed by their behavior. And I respect that, because they realized that they were out of line. So, yes, those body cams have been a savior, so say, with potentially false allegations and people getting to see how they truly react during those hostile situations, those bad times. And that's what I told this person, is it's not a true reflection, I don't think, on truly who this person is. It was a high-stress situation that they were emotional, and maybe their thought process, what they perceived to be, and maybe what it was because of hopefully a stressful situation that doesn't truly reflect who they are. So,
Well, it's another backup census data,
yeah,
a source of data, excuse me.
yeah, that was by far a great investment that we did. So,
Chief, on the miscellaneous A, it says oversized loads. You want to touch on that a little bit?
I forgot that. Thank you. So I got good news for once. So, unfortunately, due to when we had the railroad closure, I know that there was a lot of concerns. I got many calls and text messages and pictures about oversized loads and trucks off the truck routes. So during that, after that, I reached out to Steve Klein with IDOT that is the railroad and utility tech. And I think Lauren may have met with Steve and talked to Steve at one time too. So Steve's kind of the gentleman that kind of, in my opinion, got that railroad crossing repaired and got it pushed through very fast, as quick as he did. So one of the concerns that during his time here is that we had a couple that I was involved with oversized permit loads that was going on our city streets, on Yount Avenue, down in Park Avenue and so forth like that. And they had permits. They had legal permits through DOT that gave them that they were supposed to go on those side streets. Even though if you read those permits, it doesn't give them, it says clearly on there that they have to get permission from local authorities to go on the city streets. So, which none of these trucks did. So basically, we stopped them, turned them around, the ones that we caught, and redirected them, so say. So I know even after that was done, we were still getting trucks going on North Street and so forth like that. So I was able to reach out to Steve and sent him an email, and I know I CC'd Lauren and the mayor in it pertaining to what can we do and why are these trucks still on the side streets with permits? Why are they still being allowed to go there through DOT? During the course, previously when I talked to Steve, he explained to me, if I'm not mistaken, that those permits are done electronically. Basically, you can type in onto a computer and those are given out. You actually don't talk to somebody. Basically, you can go online and print out a permit load to go through your community. So I was asking, I called him after the fact when these other trucks were still proceeding to go on the side streets, why these permit loads were still going on North Street when that road closure uptown on Walnut Street was no longer there. So, approximately about 2 weeks later, I received a call from a Michael Olson through IDOT through Springfield, which is apparently Steve's boss or somebody above Steve's pay grade. I spoke to Mike by telephone, and he explained to me that a lot of times, sometimes those oversized loads hire third parties to come in to do those permits for them. So they subcontract those permits through a different company to get those, and then they send them to them. And he still had no, the explanation was still the same, that when they go on these side streets, they still have to have local permission, the local authorities get to do so. So his recommendation to me was, he had a couple recommendations. Number one, and I literally briefly spoke to Lauren last week for like 10 minutes about this, so we didn't get in contact. I was gone most of the week last week. One of the recommendations that he did was that if we could post signs, like weight signs, like in some of these county roads that you have where it's posted 10,000 pounds, so forth like that, if we can put those signs on top of the no through traffic signs that we already have posted, but if we can put those weight signs on there, and Lauren and I can submit a list to DOT to him, they can upload those streets where those posted weight signs are, and therefore they can upload that into the state system for the permits. And so when these drivers or these third-party people are pulling those permits, they'll clearly see Yount Street, North Street has a weight limit of 10,000 pounds, and so apparently there's some kind of indication on there that those streets are off limits. So it's specifically set that in that state system that they will not allow those trucks to try to bypass to go off of Walnut Street if there's a road closure like they did this time. So Lauren and I briefly spoke for a couple minutes last week. We're trying to get together maybe this week still to contact Mike down in Springfield to see exactly what he's requesting and what he's advising us to do. But I think that we can try to hopefully alleviate part of this by putting some additional signage up there. And he said, so what happens after that is that if you have DOT officers, the DOT officers can come in and write those trucks for being on a posted weight limit sign. And I'm not for sure, maybe Denny may know what that is, how much the fine would be for oversized loads on unpermitted roadways. It's like, 37 cents per pound for every pound you're over. So it's thousands of dollars if we start writing those citations. So when Lauren was with me, we end up calling out to the courthouse, just to let you know, to see if hypothetically, let's say, because Mike's advice at first was to call the state police to see if we're having problems with this, or we're going to have some kind of bypass, to see if we can have maybe a couple state troopers, DOT guys over here to start writing these citations while they're in town. We found out through the court system that any tickets that the state police writes, the city of Watsika gets none of that money back. We get none of that. So it would be nice for them to come in, but they're going to collect all that money. So the other option is one of the things that we had talked about years ago was sending some of our officers through DOT school to get certified. I think there's 3 different levels of DOT training that you can, I think. We can possibly send some of our officers through to that DOT trainings where they can get certified to write these citations. So that's what we're actually looking into right now, of getting our officers, at least 1 or 2 of them, DOT certified, where when we have these trucks that go off route, we can write those citations and hopefully alleviate any future trucks from coming through town. So I'm hoping that might be a fix.
I would think the trucks are overweight because the trailers had 4 or 5 axles on the back end. The tractors had 4 axles on them.
So what he told me
What
was,
is concerning to me
Mhm.
is that whenever they work on that crossing, the railroad company, they change rails, change ties. They always add more ballast. And them rails are continually rising,
Right.
hence making the crown higher.
Right.
So them guys literally had to shotgun across them rails
Oh, yeah.
and drag the bottom
I know.
to get across.
I know.
Someday, one of them may not make it.
I know. Well, if you notice, even uptown on the Walnut Street, there's
I see
there's already
scratches all
damage to
over
it,
up there.
to the
Yeah,
asphalt.
and that's a whole lot leveler than what North Street is.
Right. So, I'm hoping that we can try to catch this and try to head this off in a couple different facets. Number one, by putting those signs up, and it marks on the state computer system where they're not allowed. It's clearly posted that those roads have a weight limit. You know, so to go back to yours, those oversized loads, they have a ticket from the scale house when they leave of how much they weigh. So we don't necessarily have to have we don't have to have portable scales to weigh those. They should have a ticket with them of how much they weigh when they leave. So if they have that ticket on those oversized loads that show that they're hauling 80,000, 90,000, 100,000 pounds, all we simply have to do is ask for that ticket and base it off of what the markings, you know, a 10,000 pound weight limit on that street is, and we can use their own information to write them the citation. Another recommendation he had is if we had to check with the elevator or the state weight over by, whatchamacallit, over there, Sheldon, to see if we could use that if we need to. So the ball is rolling to get things going, so, but yeah, so hopefully that might resolve some of the issues. So it's kind of good news.
Well, once a couple tickets is issued, that word will get out.
They'll get the
And that's
picture.
exactly what they, and that's what they said. You write a couple of tickets on these oversized loads like that, these couple $1,000 tickets. He gave me a couple different departments. You're probably familiar with Manhattan PD. He told me to call Manhattan PD, talk to them. They write those tickets all day long. Even the simple trucks that go past, the regular size trucks that go off the truck routes, he said they have a 5-mile radius from the time you leave from the truck route to go there, unless you're going to a direct delivery. If you're 5 miles off that thing, and if you make any kind of right-hand turn or left-hand turn besides going right directly to it, it's an automatic citation. So those are things that we need to start getting on, we need to start going with to exercise to get this truck traffic to get the point across.
Because we had talked about that in the past, and
Right.
like the MRI machine
Right.
trailers, they're going directly to the
Right.
the
And there's
hospital.
going to be some that's still going to go, that's going to
cement
go
trucks.
off, right, that's going to go off the dedicated truck route because they have to get there. You have to give them the ability to get where they're going to, like the MRI truck, for instance. Food trucks, you know, we see food semis that's going down, possibly down 4th Street or 6th Street. They're going out to the nursing home. So, I mean, they have to go that way, you know,
Right.
pretty much the most direct route.
Yep.
A lot of times they come off of Walnut and just go straight up 6th Street. Sometimes they come back around the back way off of Elm and go that way. So, you know, those,
Most of them single axle food trucks is not overweight anyway.
right, right. And most of them go from A to B and they do it on a regular basis, so we don't have any problems with them. So, but hopefully
I think you and Lauren get together and work out a weight limit. And you mentioned Manhattan, Hazel Crest, and Wilmington. I can assure you, is death on them tickets.
Oh, gosh, yes.
right, and that's what this gentleman said, and he's out of Springfield, and he heard about these different departments way up north.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's why he referred me to him, and I told him years ago I used to work with a gentleman at my prior job that used to work at Manhattan PD. So I'm going to reach out there and talk to them and see how they handle it and what kind of DOT training and experience they got.
I
So
went through Manhattan 6 years when I was teaching at
it's
Joliet.
crazy how much it's
Yep,
grown up.
and they stopped them all the time.
Right.
Yep.
So
And get two of your guys enrolled
I am.
for
Yeah.
class.
Yeah. So that's what my
Because
plan
we
is.
even talked about portable scales. Remember that
Right,
years
and that's
ago?
what I'm saying. We talked at one point about 2-3 years ago about getting portable scales, but at that time,
Because
the
I think
cost of
Moments
it
was doing it. or
and the storage of it and everything else.
Yep.
Excuse. We didn't go forward with it, so say. But if we can at least get maybe the basic or the second level DOT certification where we can still do some of the citations, at least part of it, we're ahead of where we are now. So
we'll get Quincy's name out there, man. They'll impose a stroke of fear.
are you? Oh, there you go. So
All right.
Quincy's already DOT certified. So
Okay.
yeah. So Quincy and I will get together and hopefully we can put something
We'll
together.
just call you
pretty soon.
Gunslinger, huh?
You know, so, but yeah, so I thought that was something positive. So hopefully we'll try to save the city streets and the crossings as much as we can. So, anything else? I apologize for skipping over that, Don. I wasn't intentionally doing so. So
Oh, yeah, right,
I had taken my glasses off, so I'm sorry.
Okay,
Anything else?
thank you, Chief, but let's go to the status of West Park.
All right. So, 325 West Park. Obviously, it was brought to my attention after you guys' full city council meeting. I had a telephone discussion with Mr. Anderson about it, you know, and we kind of get over it because I wasn't aware. I was at the meeting. Wasn't aware that I was aware that there's been an ongoing problem there, but I didn't understand or didn't realize it, you know, it was still continuing or getting to the point where it was. Just to kind of backtrack a little bit to add to this, I believe it was on that same night that you guys had your city council meeting earlier in the evening, Officer Forbes got called down to that address for the same complaint about the siren going off. He did write the gentleman at that house a citation that evening, prior to the meeting, just to let everybody know. So Wednesday or Thursday, I believe, which day it was, I went down there and spoke to the resident at 325. He came out. I got a pretty good working relationship with him. He was fine with me. I told him my concern. I told him the concern that the neighbors have, that it came to the city council meeting, you know, and try to come to some kind of resolution with him. At first, he wasn't really wanting to comply, or really wasn't seeing the fault of it. And I again, it took me some time, but I think we kind of came to an agreement. He did have one concern, and I think it's a legitimate concern or legitimate complaint, I guess, at some point, but it still wasn't relevant of what's going on now. But he did explain to me how prior to this, years ago, when him and his family first moved to the community, at some point, for some reason, his house caught on fire. And he and his wife were upset and concerned that nobody in the neighborhood called the fire department and called the police department when his house was on fire. But now people are calling and complaining about his alarms going on, and he simply put the alarms on there to protect his wife and his family because he couldn't count on anybody outside his house to do it for him. So I listened to his concerns and so forth like that, you know, and I tried to reason with him as best as I could, and I felt like I got somewhere with him, and then I left. I would say about an hour and a half later, his wife, and his kids came up to City Hall. I saw him here, so I went out and met with him and his family again. At that time, it was a conversation I had with his wife, or his partner, I guess, at that point. And I shared with her the concerns that I had, the neighbors had, and we as a city have with it. And I asked him if he could work with me on trying to do a couple things that would eliminate this issue and this problem. And she said that she would be willing to do it. And at the same time, they were trying not to be bad neighbors, but there was some history there between at least one of the neighbors, but they were willing to let bygones be bygones and move on. And hopefully, at one point, they even said that maybe they could have a block party down there, and they could all get together. So I'm like, I wish that would be the case, but I wish you the best, and hopefully that was the case. But I explained to him that I was going to go down and talk to the two neighbors on both sides and try to tell them exactly the resolution that we came up with, and hopefully that would appease everybody, and hopefully we wouldn't have these issues. So I went down, I talked to the resident on the west side, which is one of the individuals that came up here at full city council meeting. I met with her. I told her how I met with the homeowner twice and what they were willing to do to try to come up with a resolution with this, and she was content with it. She seemed to be happy with it. I did go next door to the other neighbor on the east side, but there was nobody home. I think I followed up just here the last couple of days again. I went back over there again to that same neighbor, and there was a car in the driveway, but nobody again answered the door. So I haven't made contact with the one neighbor, but I believe it was Monday or Tuesday, Mr. Anderson called me to tell me that he had gotten contacted from the one neighbor that had the concerns about it, that apparently ever since I came down there and then he had addressed it and then I had addressed it, apparently it sounds like the issue has been resolved. Am I correct?
It had been.
Okay, it had been.
I got a phone call day before yesterday from the resident to the west that said it was back on again.
So this I didn't know. So I was hoping that it was done. Those citations have been issued. You know, citations in the past have been issued. When I did talk to the neighbor on the west, they told me that last year or so when we wrote those citations, that it seemed like that was enough to spur it to stop, and it had stopped for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, they thought. So again, with the connection I thought I had with them, and then with the citation, I was hoping that it was resolved, but apparently, possibly it hasn't been. Now, I don't know, I'm not aware that we've been called back down there.
She told me that she hadn't made the decision to call yet, but they were just letting me know that
So,
Had been back on again.
Well, I know when I was getting cabin fever right after my surgery, I had my wife take me for a ride, and what I understood, the sensitivity was so strong that if you drove by, it was going off. And we drove by a couple times, and it never went off. I mean, I'm just wondering. You know what? It's hypothetical, but did a bird fly by that thing and it
So-
was just happened to be going off or something? I don't know.
without
but-
jeopardizing their security system, I don't feel comfortable with talking about the resolution we came up with. So
Right.
say.
Gotcha.
So that's the resolution we came up with would have possibly tried to put things a little bit easier to say. So when I was down there at the neighbor's house again just the other day, when I was at the neighbor on the west, it went off maybe once or twice. When I was meeting with him, the individual, it never went off on the front, but I heard the alarm on the sides going off. I'm not for sure. When I talked to the homeowners, they told me that they usually only turn their alarms on in the evening when they go to bed or when they're not outside, because they want to make sure nobody's coming on their property.
A side yard, that could be. Scott, were they saying that it was multiple times or it was once or what?
Actually, just sent her a text now asking if it's still going off. I don't know if she'll respond, but it's the side that's on her side, it's the west side. When I was there that day, I even have video on my phone of it. It's the alarm specifically that's on the west side of their property that faces the now city-owned vacant lot between where she lives and where the house is. And it was every,
And I'm not trying to make
10,
excuse, but
15
we've got a
seconds.
ring, and man, when the sun starts shining, we're getting that wind chime sound and stuff.
Oh,
So I'm
this
just
is-
wondering.
This is definitely not a wind chime.
I know,
sound,
but I mean, no, I'm just saying
Oh.
the sensitivity. Could it be something running by like an animal or a bird? or
Yeah,
something,
I mean, like
you
I
know?
said, when I was there.
And I'm not trying to slight the lady.
No, I'm just saying it was very obvious that it was, because there's also a light on it that
Right.
that lights up when the siren activates, and it was every 10 or 15 seconds, and it would go off for 10 or 15 seconds, and then it would silent, and then you waited for a couple more seconds, and on it would go again.
And that's currently.
This is when I was there.
Oh,
So I don't
week or
know
two
if
or
they
a month.
have adjusted anything
Gotcha.
sensitivity wise, but if it's still based on what it was doing when I physically saw it, that's how frequent and what it was doing. So,
Internal alarm in
No.
the house, it's external.
It's
no,
So
it's a device that's
Five
located on the outside of the property facing the west. And I know there's at least 4 of them around the property from what I've been told. So there's one facing north, one facing south to the back of the property, one facing west that's obvious that you can see, and there's one to the east, which is literally right outside the bedroom window of the lady that lives to the east.
And I'm-
there's
and I'm-
there's
I'm
no
just saying.
distance between that to where there is to the west. There's an entire lot, but it's open, and if you have your windows open, you're just gonna hear it.
Right.
So-
Triggered by motion or what?
It's
Yeah.
it's
triggered by
supposedly triggered by
ghosts. I
motion.
couldn't tell
Yeah.
you. There was no reason for it to be activating while I was looking at it.
But I could tell you at our B&B in Florida this past spring,
Yeah.
palm trees started blowing and the light was going off and on.
Well, it would
Who
make
in the heck is
sense.
there? So I
It
mean,
makes sense if I was able to visualize a tree that was blowing
Or
the
something, a
grass
bird
that
or-
was
yeah.
blowing. But as I'm watching it and as I shot video of it, it was just activating.
okay.
It was just activating.
Okay.
It was just activating. I mean, and I tried to make sense of why was this taking place, but it didn't.
I went down there, I believe it was around this time last year in June, and I'm sure if I find it on my phone, I still have it. I went down there a year ago and I have it on my phone. I stood out in front of the house, it never went off. I walked down the block, I walked back, it never went off. So I don't think it's got any rhyme or reason. I don't know if it's just the day of the week or
Well,
if
and I
they
also
turn it
know
off
that
or
she
on.
was trying to speak to me through the alarm while I was on the neighbor's property as I was videoing it, because you could hear a voice,
So,
but I couldn't understand what it was because I
Gotcha.
was far enough away.
so they are being issued citations.
Yep.
You know, we're trying to do it. This isn't the first time. This isn't the second time they've been issued citations for. You know, if this is the
I
case,
think
I
we
can
pretty
go.
much hashed this out. I think you should be able to handle it from here.
Yes, thank you. So,
I think we need to move on with more pertinent information decisions to make tonight.
Okay, Benny, sounds good.
All right.
Anything on the Smith Street?
and the only reason I'm saying that because I literally, and like I said, I'm not trying to pass the buck. I don't know nothing about it. The only thing I know about it is what I read in the minutes. So the police department's never been called in reference to anything.
Can I
along
talk
these-
about Smith Street?
I mean, it's us.
It's us.
The lady that came and complained at council, I'm dealing with the one property on the very end, 1201 West Smith. There's a lot of things going on there. It's been going on for a couple of years. She doesn't bag her garbage. The garbage can gets knocked over and the garbage blows all over the neighborhood. There's accumulated garbage and debris in the yard. She has a big problem keeping up with the mowing in her yard, and water service has been off and on. So, you know, I've talked to her. She answers the phone. We'll catch her backing out of the driveway. We talk to her in the driveway. I've written her citations. She always contests the citations, except the last one, she didn't show up for municipal court the last time. She was going to contest the judgment. And actually, the neighbor across the road that came to council and complained, she was here for municipal court and made the same complaints to the hearing officer. So it's ongoing. I know she came and said code said they were not able to do anything. I'm doing as much as I can do.
Yeah.
As far as the other neighbor on Smith, and I'm going to hand that off to Bill.
I've been dealing with him since I started. It's like he said, it's ongoing, it's revolving. I get him to clean it all up, and then we do good for a while. Then we come back here. There's a flatbed truck there now that I'm in contact with the owner of that, trying to get it removed by them. One vehicle did get removed since I talked to him last week, and unfortunately, there's still one there that's supposed to be leaving that's full of a bunch of scrap. I tried to make contact with him this afternoon, was unable. I'm going to try again in the morning. He has been sent a letter. He has till the 17th on this letter to get everything cleaned up and that stuff out, or we're going to take other actions.
And Billy, if I can interject, the one that Eric was talking about first was a house where Billy removed 2 cars from just
Right.
last month or 2 months. So
We
he
towed
has
2 of them
been
already.
dealing with that and been cleaning that property up for some time now. So
It's been going on for at least 2 years.
As far as the trash goes, are they able to clean up the trash, or do they need help? Is there?
So the owner that I deal with, she does clean up the trash. She picks it up. She's
Okay.
promised to pick up the trash and debris in the yard. It hasn't been done yet. She's been fined once already. I've got another ticket pending. She'll be due back in here the end of this month again for another hearing on the second fine. She did get her grass mowed, and then actually this week she even went as far as to cut the grass that's growing up through the fence was about 3 feet tall. So, you know, on the front of the property, she did clean that up. She's 72 years old, and she's got a handicapped grandson that lives with her.
And he's talked to her. I've went to the house and talked to her. I've talked to her on the phone. I mean, it's ongoing. We probably at
There's
least
probably
talk to her.
only
once
so
a
much
week.
she can do. I didn't know if there was any way for an organization to help out. Not the city can do it, but maybe some
Right.
other organization can help her out. Maybe she could go to a church or whatever, or something to try to get some assistance to help get cleaned up.
I believe she's getting some assistance. She frequents food pantries. Her van is packed floor to ceiling with canned goods and food, and even as much as a dashboard. And, you know, even on her back porch, you can see it stacked up out there. That's the problem.
When we
She doesn't want the help. She's getting the help that she wants, and it's just piling up.
when we towed the 2 cars, they actually literally had to take cases of canned goods off of the vehicle so that
Oh,
we could
boy.
tow them because it was just stacked up.
Well, there's only so much a city can do.
Right.
It's got to go back to the homeowner.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate all of you guys trying to resolve all these issues.
Yeah.
Dumpsters, panhandler, and park issues. You want
Yeah, I'll jump on this. I know we talked about the dumpsters often or multiple times, and I know Scott brought it up last meeting. You have a copy of an ordinance. Actually, you were sent 2, but made one with highlights on it and stuff regarding the dumpsters. So, had Joe take a look at what we could do. The highlighted part, top one in A, and I'm gonna just paraphrase so we can get through this part quick. Part of the thing is the responsibility of the people with the dumpsters. Once they sign a trash contract, it's kind of under their care, custody, and control. So, A, that's been highlighted, that talks about unlawful for the owner of any real property going through, whether stored, kept in a public alley or exterior of said property in a condition that is uncovered, unlocked. So, A is basically saying that the business owner, it's unlawful for them to keep it unlocked. And I think Lauren went around 2 or 3 months ago with some and said, hey, if you're having issues, you're going to have to lock it and chain it. Okay, so then we go on down to B. This is for the folks like I'm going to say the CVS's, Walmart's, some of the fast food restaurants that have the enclosure that they put theirs into. They don't have to chain or lock their dumpsters as long as they keep their enclosure locked. As far as the people doing the rating of the dumpster, that comes up in C, I believe. Accepting refuse contractor servicing commercial multifamily residential property with the authority of the owner, it shall be unlawful for any person to access or search any trash, landscaping, or other recycling receptacle, including dumpster, or to pick, acquire, remove, take out, and possess any item of the material disposed of. So there's responsibility on the business owners that have their stuff in the alley, even though it's on alley or city property. That dumpster is basically considered theirs, so they have to take the responsibility. So unfortunately with D, it kind of works out to a fining situation, and that could be, and as I read this, to the business owner and the people getting into the dumpster, and that's what Joe recommended. So,
Well, I'm going to be the first one to step up and say that I think it's ridiculous that the businesses are going to suffer the wrath of what is the garbage pickers. I says, how does it look for us as a city to point the finger back at the business owners and threaten to fine them for something that other people are doing? This was not the purpose of when I suggested an ordinance. I suggested an ordinance to go after those that are doing this. And at the beginning of this, it's basically telling our business owners that this is now your responsibility, and we're going to fine you $100 to $1,000 if you don't do this. So
I think you mentioned Midlothian or Mundelein or someplace like that. If you want to bring in theirs, please bring it in.
I'm more than
Okay.
well, more than happy to do that, but
Okay.
this is fine. If A and B are removed and you just leave C and D, this ordinance is perfect as written. I can't see a reason at all why we should be going after our business owners
Okay.
and telling them that, hey, guess what, guys? You know, if you don't lock and chain your dumpster, we're going to fine you $100 to $1,000. But at the same time, you know, if we find people that are picking in it, we're going to go ahead and fine them, and they can't pay it. So, you know, we're just going to tell them that they can't. But if you didn't chain it or lock it, we're going to let them go ahead. So
Okay. So is it fair to let you contact Joe and give your thoughts to him?
I don't understand why. I mean, I would be more than happy to, but again, it's an expense.
I didn't know
So-
this was going to come up. This just came to me. So by all means, I'd say if you want to, please bring it up with Joe.
Scott, do you have a resolution? Do you have a resolution?
Other than that, I say it's fine as written. Eliminate A and B, and leave the rest of it in place. No reason to go
Yeah.
any other way.
Please go ahead.
I want to remind everybody that what you guys are discussing affects all our departments here, and ties up a lot of our manpower cleaning up everything that's dug out of these dumpsters.
Yeah.
I agree that we don't want to fine our businesses, but I think we're looking for them to help us help them ultimately by putting locks on these dumpsters to reduce the stress on all of these departments. Because just this week, we're down filling up a dump truck full of garbage that's dug out of dumpsters and this place and that place. I think we're just looking for assistance from the businesses that we're supporting as well.
Then remove the fine structure for them not being compliant.
But how do you enforce that?
I don't know. I still am not,
Well-
I am not
Even if it's
going
an
to
empty
agree.
threat, you don't have to find them, but I think
Go
it's
after the
something in
people
place
that are
to
causing
push
the
them to
problems.
help us.
And I know of one dumpster that the chain, it was the one behind Harbor House. They had it chained and locked. And they cut the chain and lock and took it for scrap.
Well,
So, you know,
there's the
it's,
fine on the person doing that work as well.
Right.
Obviously, that's gonna be pushed harder than the fine toward the businesses, but I think we need something in place requesting the chain and lock, because I went around and asked some of these businesses to get locking dumpsters or chains, and it just fell on deaf ears. They put no effort into it. So, again, I agree, we don't want to fine our businesses, but we need their help to help them in order to patrol and do our jobs that were really required of us,
'Cause
or
we're-
to make the repairs out in the infrastructure versus cleaning up the garbage.
Because we're taking manpower from
We
our
had
guys,
two
but
guys, a truck, loader, three police officers tied up
no, you
just
can't do
this
that.
week cleaning up a mess.
so Scott, I think the fair thing is let you get that ordinance presented to Joe, and then we'll go from there. Fair enough?
Well, again, like I said, I say as written, it's okay.
Okay.
Get rid of A and B, and we don't have to have the expense of going to the attorney to rewrite it. So, in other words, what you're saying is the majority of the people that are sitting up here, other than a couple of us, that you're more than willing to put this onus onto the business owners and what would be their expense if they're not gonna secure the dumpster.
I'm just saying, you brought something up last week, and I presented it to the attorney, and this is what he recommended. That's all I'm saying.
And you're telling me I need to contact the attorney back and have a
Okay.
discussion. I'm saying that as written, this is fine. Eliminate A and B.
And, well, I mean, just bring the one that you mentioned that you could get. And was it Midlothian or Mundelein or
Have a
someplace
couple
like
of them.
that?
One of them.
You mentioned one. You mentioned the city.
One of them that was even more interesting, it didn't prohibit it. It just said that those of you that want to do dumpster diving and picking have to register with the city and have a permit. And it costs you money to issue the permit. If you want to go.
I'm not
dumpster
saying you're
diving-
wrong, Scott. I'm
Well, just saying
totally
is-
not
is-
saying you're wrong.
That would even be better than this.
And
Because this is saying that you're going to be telling the business owners that are downtown that if you don't chain and lock your dumpsters that are sitting in an alley, we're going to fine you as opposed to the guys.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to take,
What if the city provides the chain and lock? I mean, we're just looking for assistance. You know, finding these people is gonna go nowhere, right?
Correct.
Chief?
Correct.
They're not going to pay the fines, they're gonna continue to do this. I think we're looking for assistance from the businesses. I think you're looking at the negative side of we're just gonna go straight to fining. That's not the case, but we need their assistance. And there's no other way to enforce something unless there is a fine behind it that could happen. I mean,
how do you find somebody that's dumpster diving? They're homeless.
Well, to me, it's not
You can't
necessarily the
fi- you-
fine, it's the hassle of the process. And if people are made aware that, you can't do this anymore, get gone. Move on. You can't do this. And
How
you
many
tell them
times have
enough.
you? How many times have your officers told the dumpster divers to stop being in the dumpster and get away from it?
Probably,
lost track of how many times I've cleaned it up.
Right.
I mean, you're telling the same people to quit dumpster diving. They're dumpster diving because
they're dumpster diving in a lot of cases looking for food. You know, we have a couple individuals that are hoarders. I don't know what they do with it. You know, not to put anybody on the spot, but I went
Into on, when they're cleaning out a house or a construction site.
Yeah.
I went
They'll
down
take
to a
us for that
certain
dumpster
business
piled in the backyard over here on Second Street.
just this past week, and I talked to them, okay? And they came out from their building, and they said, is there a problem? I said, well, apparently there was an issue with people going through a dumpster. And I said, I'm here to kind of see what's going on and this and that. And they did tell me that they had no problem going through the dumpster, that they receive so many donations on a daily basis, they have so much stuff that they don't have any way to keep it, so they throw it out in the dumpster. And they literally have no problems with people going through the dumpsters, and generally they've had a situation one or two times where they've had people where they've tossed stuff out a long time in the alleyway, and they've asked them to come out and clean it out, and they picked it up. The problem I agree with, like what I think Lauren's getting at, is that they're taking this stuff and they're pack riding it somewhere. And how many times last year did we end up going down to the boat docks and cleaning that up, underneath the West Bridge and cleaning that up, down to the railroad tracks this past week, yesterday, and cleaned it up? So, you know, we can tell them all we want to, we can find these same people all we want to, but if there's ability for them to do so without the businesses working with us at some point, at some level, we're never going to come to a resolution. We need everybody involved with it, and I don't know, again, if Lawrence has already taken the first step of going around, if it requires us to go there and say, hey, look, we want you to do this, and if they tell us that the chains and the locks got cut, nobody contacted us and told us, and that particular business has cameras on their dumpster, so I'm not for sure why they didn't call us and tell us that somebody had cut their locks. If people are that desperate where they're going to cut those locks and padlocks off, we can cite them all day long, and they know at the end of the day that all they're going to get is citation for it. So you can charge, even if you charge them with a criminal charge of criminal damage to property for cutting that lock, it's not necessarily a detainable offense, and you're going to write them a notice to appear.
So you're saying a chain and lock's not gonna stop either?
No, I'm not saying it won't stop them, but hypothetically, if they're that determined to do it, they're still going to do it. I don't see these people. I'm hoping that it would convince them that the free ride in Watsika is not here anymore, and it's going to deter them to go somewhere else and or accept assistance to go somewhere where they can get the help they need. You know, and I'm sure Quincy can attest this, we deal with these same people every day. And it's not like once a day, twice a day, once a week, twice a week that we come to them and tell them, do you want us to help you and take you someplace? Because this is not the life I'm sure you grew up thinking that you were going to be digging out of dumpsters and living in some woods somewhere. You know, some of these people, again, have mental health issues.
I'm sure if they went in the front door of Harbor House, the Harbor House people would be happy to help them out with the stuff they have
Correct.
inside.
Correct.
I have a question for Lauren, or any of you guys. How many dumpsters, if we supplied the chain and the locks, it's going to be a minimal cost to the city, 20 dumpsters you think that we got to provide chains and locks for?
I mean,
I think
the problem you have is
it
the businesses struggle with having to wrap a chain around, padlock. But like I talked to a couple businesses, you can call Republic or Homewood, whoever you use, and they have the fold down lock. So you just have to, you might pay a couple dollars extra a year, but you can get a dumpster with the locking mechanism where it's a quick padlock versus wrapping a chain around and messing with that. Because that, I get it, you know, as a business owner, you're not going to want to spend a half hour unlocking and locking the dumpster. But, and I had one in my previous office. It was a quick padlock and the thing folded up, and then you get into the dumpster, you know, because we had an issue there with people just using it for everything.
there's a number of businesses that have been compliant. I know, and I'll say it, Casey's is one of them that had a pattern of leaving their dumpsters unsecured, unlocked. And in the mornings I would come in and there'd be bags of trash sitting over at K Park. And I talked to Lauren. I said, hey, let me see what I can do. Went over there and talked to them, and they complied. They started locking up. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
So
They have an enclosure around there.
they have an enclosure too, but they just weren't shutting it.
Yeah.
You know, that was the thing. They weren't doing what needed to be done. They had the pieces there, but they just weren't putting the pieces together. So I think if we can try to build that rapport with them to get them on board, like Lauren's saying, I don't want to cite them either. I think it's a bad idea. We have a hard time keeping businesses here. The last thing we want to do is put more stress
Right.
on them to write them a ticket. In my opinion, I think that's a horrible idea. But I think we need to hold them accountable to get them, even if we don't necessarily, and I hate to use the word threaten, but even if we threaten them that, hey, if you don't do this, we're going to have no other choice but write you a ticket because this is what's going on, I think that will be enough incentive for them to comply to do what we are asking them to do.
If they know there's an ordinance out there that could hold them accountable, then
Yeah,
they're
they'll
I
want
think the
to
word that
follow
you're looking
it.
for instead of threaten is to properly educate.
Right. That's why I'm not using,
And if the city is willing to, you know, to provide what would be the lock, I know that the garbage companies, most of the time, most of these dumpsters are on the same route. And the garbage company themselves will also, if you contact them, will provide you with a commonly keyed padlock, because there's a different lock that's on it for the route driver than there is for the business owner, because all of the dumpsters that fall under that same route for that Packer truck or whatever it is that take the dumpsters, all of the dumpsters are keyed exactly the same. So
Or-
it may be a requirement that we reach out to Republic or whoever has the majority of the routes, but all of them will fall under the same category. I know that because I worked in the industry for a short period of time, and I also had it when they came to Peoples when I worked there, and we had to deal with that. We were changing dumpsters. So I just, and again, I 100% agree with what Jeremy just says. We don't want to put this as a fine structure or anything. If we need to educate the business owners and say, hey, look, we're trying to get rid of this problem in our alleys and get rid of this problem, you have to work with us.
Yep.
Then I will accept what that is, but we can need to leave the fine structure for the people that are causing the problem, not for the businesses, and that needs to be struck from A and B,
But
that they can be
I
fined.
guess like Lauren said,
But if a
just keep in
business
mind,
doesn't do it,
the officers have discretion. I hate to say
trying
it, but
to.
the officers have discretion to write the citation or not.
Sure.
Okay, so if you read into it without reading into it, we can get them to comply and re-educate them.
Yeah, I think the education portion is more important right here than anything.
Right.
And so,
okay, so what,
All right.
what,
But I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing the ordinance you were talking about, Scott, if you could
no,
get that.
I will look
And
at
then
that again.
I'll
and-
send it to Joe and go from there. Like, I mean, that's all these attorneys do is they get other case law or whatever the case may be. So,
so
All right.
what,
I
so what direction did we decide to do then after that discussion? Did we actually come up with a
you know,
solution or not?
Lauren, are you on the chamber? I wonder if Amanda could put out and say, hey, this is absolutely a meeting you got to get to, and you can start the educational process at that. I mean, I know I'm heaping more onto you.
But this is also something that can be discussed at,
Definitely need to educate, but we also have to be able to hold them accountable.
Right, and I would be
That's
willing to
really
have
what it
myself.
At least get one of their
And in
representatives here.
12 months, when it falls on deaf ears, you have nothing to hold them accountable.
And I would be willing, either myself or somebody from the police department, to go to attend that meeting too,
That would be awesome.
to educate them what our purpose of this ordinance is.
and we also have the ability to discuss this at finance, legal, and audit, and we can table this to that meeting.
Let's do that.
Instead of making it go all the way to full city council, we have another one in between, so let's table this discussion to next week and
Sounds
see
good.
what we've
We'll-
come up with between now and then.
Yeah,
Excellent idea.
we'll follow up then.
Okay, so on the panhandler, I don't know if we have a no trespass form that you can get businesses to sign.
So typically what we do with no trespass, if we get called down there, we already have I guess a thing in place that basically the officers tell ICOM keeps a record of who's being trespassed, the date, the time, and where they're being trespassed as.
Okay.
So,
So that's, and there again, it's going to be a little bit on the business to work with you on that.
so
Correct.
here's, I had somebody ask me today, just like hypothetically the debris that was left on Union Pacific's part of the railroad the other day.
Yeah, I saw.
Union Pacific chose not, they didn't want to sign a complaint against them. We can't force somebody to, we can't
Exactly.
force them, we can't talk them into it. So if the businesses or the original caller calls about something and they don't want to sign a complaint, when the officer clearly asks them on the body cam and says, do you want to sign a complaint? No, we just want them to get their stuff and move out.
And you've done your job.
We've done our job.
Okay. And then we had the parks. I know this has been brought up by other council members about as far as folks. Again, this would be like there was a dog in front of Casey's with a, I'm going to say a homeless person or whatever the case may be, or on the benches. You know, our hands are just tied as far as, you know, our guys can talk to them and say, hey, maybe it's time to move along politely. But that's not an arrestable format.
I would
Now,
be
the-
happy to talk to anybody that has any questions about it pertaining to the response I had from CanCar last year in September 2023, that I got a response back from him. I'd be willing to sit down with anybody to share that information with them.
Okay, and maybe it's with a Joe thing too. And then people sleeping in the parks and talking to city legal here last week, since I had some time. Sounds like if we have a dusk to dawn hours, that if they're there after, did I say that right, dawn to dusk, and they're there after the parks close, then police could take some action. But again, if that's what you're bringing up, I think that's a Joe, you, me, and Brandon, or whoever his assistant is at the time, or maybe even here in meeting. So,
I also took liberty to call Joe. The parks are closed, period. Dusk to dawn. There shouldn't be anybody in our parks at 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't care what they're doing there. I don't care if they're just walking around or if they're sleeping or what. So it's part of the ordinance that's in place. There's no question about how the parks are taken care of.
Okay.
Is there? Is there a question
Nope,
about
nope,
parks?
I'm saying thank you for
Dusk to-
reinforcing what I
dusk to
just said.
dawn, period.
I guess the what question I have is if the same people that are doing the dumpster diving happen to be the same people that are frequenting our parks overnight, what recourse do we have other than telling them to leave the park? It's no different than telling them to leave the dumpster. They're still going to eventually go back to the park. So we're caught in this same thing that keeps
It's a
going
catch-22,
round and
isn't it?
round and round and
Yeah.
round. And
I
so,
suppose if we make it more difficult, it will make them consider leaving our community. I'm just saying, if we make it harder for them to do what they're doing. and
I
we're-
agree, Jenny.
we're-
Hassle the hell out of
You
them.
know, I mean, it's not about hassling, but.
Well, make them
but
uncomfortable.
Making it uncomfortable
Yep.
for them to do the things they're doing.
Right.
Yes,
Maybe
uncomfortable
they'll
is a better word.
Decide
Uncomfortable.
to, decide to leave on their own.
Yeah.
So,
Hang around the park at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're asking for vandalism.
Yep.
And we get it.
Yeah.
nothing good happens after midnight, Mom said. So.
I have been just in addition to, before we get off this subject, I have been in contact with another internet provider about the security cameras at the parks, and as soon as I get my information together, I will present it
Yeah, by all means.
for security cameras at the parks.
All right.
Since we had 2 acts of vandalism and cost thousands of dollars. That's all I got.
Okay, thanks, Benny. Anybody else? Got anything? Okay, then I move to adjourn.
So
All in
moved.
favor?
Aye.
Code enforcement. Call a meeting to order, and Kathy, would you do roll call?
Miller.
Here.
Cahill.
Here.
Mensch.
Here.
Bergery.
Here.
Delar. Here. Rolfs.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Mercier.
Here.
Mayor.
Here.
9 present.
Okay. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to Eric Brandt.
Thank you, Don. Hi, DNR flood mitigation. Very little to report there. We haven't got a reimbursement yet. We're still waiting on over $200,000. I do know they're working on it. They asked for a couple more documentations on reimbursements. Other than that, nothing to report on the flood mitigation.
So are we like on hold until we can receive more money,
So,
or are we?
you
Still
know, the
have
last
some in line.
reimbursement we got in like 10 weeks, I believe. That was the quickest one we ever had. This one has been 3 months now. I do know, I believe the state fiscal year is June 30th. Is that correct?
I believe
So
you're right, yeah.
if we
when I
don't see it
write
before
what's your
then,
face.
then we're not gonna see it till August. We've been down
But
this.
we still have some on the operating line, right, that we could continue, or are we maxed out again?
Oh, no, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
So we can still work on flood mitigation residences, correct?
Yep, but we have nothing ready to close, no demolitions coming up,
Okay.
so, yeah, we're just in a holding pattern right now. Anything else on flood mitigation?
Well, I'm just gonna mention, maybe a couple would like to do, an ad hoc committee, but, you know, we have people saying, well, what are you gonna do with these flood mitigation lots? I don't know if 2 of you'd like to do an ad hoc and, maybe say, hey, you know, 3 to 5 lots, let's do butterfly gardens, let's do natural prairie. We can't do a lot of building on it, but maybe we could, nicen them up and maybe eliminate some mowing if we had something up. So I'm just putting that out there. If anybody has an interest, please feel free to contact me or let Kathy know.
And we had
Go from
talked
there.
about it before, FFA, I would think they would be interested
Yep.
in something, you know, so,
And if you have anybody out in the area, I mean, I know some on what's been brought to my attention of being critical on the social media. Hey, what would you like to do to help your community? Because it's really not just a city thing. This can be anybody that would like to help do something with this. So, just putting that out there.
Eric, you can't put a fence on those though, correct?
No. No structures.
No,
Not-
we
not
talked about a
without,
dog park and it's stuff that gets caught in flood debris.
Get that out to the public that we're limited on what we can do with these lots.
Yeah, basically, you know, it could go back to wild. IDNR would love it if you just let it go back in brush and go back to wild, but then that's not gonna sit well with city ordinances.
Yeah, it probably needs to be a little more organized than that.
Eric,
But any type of structure is gonna have to be approved, and that includes fences, and they will say no to fences.
Talk like gardens, you know, things like that, but you're probably gonna want a fence around a garden, correct? So, I mean,
Well, and we've talked about the dog park, and that puts the next to the dog park, cause it requires a fence, and they say no.
Eric, is it possible for you to present a list of all of the properties that are currently owned
Sure.
by the city? So we get an accurate list of these actual properties, and maybe we can start breaking them down by ward, and then we can go from there and see if there's people within the wards that would be interested in doing something within them.
Because three of them are right together behind Nettie Davis.
Yeah, I know where there's a handful of
Yeah.
them, but I just think that there were several of them, many of them, before several of us up here have even taken office. So I think if you could put a list together, that would be very
Your
much
ward, there's
appreciated.
not a lot. I know there's one over there, but it's been adopted already. So,
I think part of the reason why there hasn't been a lot of things put on any of these lots, like a garden or so forth, is when Public Works needs to go and mow, there's a lot of things they'd have to mow around, you know, trees. If they put in fruit trees or something like that, it adds more time to doing each lot. At least that's what it was in the past. I assume that that would add more time to each lot.
It would, it,
adopt them.
right, adopt
Right.
a lot would be the best.
Well, is it also possible to reach out to DNR and within the footprint of these lots to develop a sub-footprint on the inside to where that is tilled completely down to black dirt and then replanted as natural prairie that existed in this area?
Yeah, that's
And
right.
then we pass an ordinance that allows natural prairie
On DNR.
as marked, and we would mark them as a do not
There might
mow
even be
natural
grants for
prairie.
that, and there might be grants for
Absolutely.
butterfly gardens too.
Because that,
So,
and then, yes, I mean, and I know that there are natural
pollinators, whatever.
perennials, pollinators that can be mixed in with the same thing that would reduce our mowing load. We would probably mow a perimeter, but one simple pass around the outside is a heck of a lot faster than back and forth to take care of the whole thing. A lot of that doesn't require watering, a lot of it, I mean, it's designed around what is our natural land, and I think DNR would be more than willing to be.
They would be all for that.
Absolutely.
And then, that would be extra credit points for community rating system also.
go.
It's going back to natural functions.
People need to stomach what's there. You know, some people look at that as, oh, you're just letting it grass overgrow.
Well, there's a difference between a weed lot and a natural lot, so, you know, the IDOT posts signage on the side of the road that says do not mow because this is natural prairie grass.
I
So-
believe natural prairie may require some burn-offs occasionally also, so.
Well,
Department training.
they will require maintenance, otherwise you have noxious weeds, such as poison ivy growing in
Oh,
them
you
and
can't burn.
everything else. It's just not throwing some seed out there and walking away from it and saying,
Right.
oh, we got grass and pretty flowers. That isn't the way it works. There's more to it than that.
I mean, Scott, is
And
that
I
something
don't-
you might have an interest in?
And I don't know
I-
if our city maintenance guys has time.
Maybe
to
you
do
and
that.
Jenny or something?
I don't think it's as simple as just let it grow up.
No.
And then you got people that might live next door, they aren't going to.
Right.
Well, then
So
let them
maybe
adopt it.
Eric can
Might
start
get other
with,
stuff,
with
like
all the available lots.
hemp.
And
Yep.
then maybe,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
And
So
then look at,
then
and
we have
if
something
maybe
to
we have
start.
some that are outside that be converted to prairie and then come up
Yes.
with a different solution for other lots that are in a more, urban area.
Scott and Jenny, would that be something you guys might be interested in doing the
Anything
research
else
a little
on
bit?
flood mitigation?
I just say let's let Eric see what he can find out from DNR, and then we'll go from there.
You were talking about making a list. Is there any way of doing a map and mark the lots or something?
About all I got for mapping is Google Maps.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Let's
it
not-
might
let-
be easier to figure out in your head where they're at if you had the lots marked on each
Let's
lot or
just,
something.
I think a list is good enough. Let's not burden Eric with any more,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
Just a list with addresses.
And we
We
can
can
put it out
start
to
with
the
a
public
list.
later, see if somebody wants to
Yeah,
do something.
I'll work on a map possibly. We'll see what we can do. Anything else?
No, go ahead.
Ordinance citations, 12 warnings, 6 citations. So I'm going to expand on this again this month. So this is what I do is written. This doesn't take into the phone calls or face-to-face or stop by and knock on the door. You know, when I see the couch or the chair in the front yard or the tall grass. I mean, if I can get to them face-to-face, the crime-free rental, you know, I've got all the landlord's phone calls, so that's the first phone call I make. Those are easy. So, you know, the majority of it is taken care of verbal, face-to-face, and phone calls. Some folks you just can't get a hold of them. They don't answer their phone. They don't have we don't have a viable phone number on record, and sometimes they're out of town. So then it goes to written, and I just wanted to expand on that a little bit. 520 North Second fire demolition. So the contractor is there on site. He's got his fencing up. He's moved some material around. Now, no demolition of structures yet. Any
How
que-
long is that gonna be?
So he's got a couple days left on his 30 days.
And the only thing he leaves is the grass.
Pardon?
The only thing he leaves is the grass.
Correct. Correct.
And some seed, right?
400 East Cherry. Everyone has the bids in front of them. 13,700 Lee Farms Excavating and 19,250 KB&E 2 Incorporated.
I make a motion that we accept Lee Farms, the low bid of 13,700 for 400 East Cherry.
Second.
Roll call.
Dennis, you were late on your motion.
Kathy?
On that motion.
Beargreen.
Aye.
Cahill.
Aye.
Minch.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Rolfs.
Aye.
Marcier.
Aye.
Delar. Mayor.
Aye.
Roll call carried.
That's been a long time coming. That house has been a wreck since the day I started here. It's in need of being gone. 100 West Walnut, J.C. Penney building. So, you know,
306.
What about 306 East West Oak?
oh, I'm sorry. So we do have a signed donation agreement. I'm trying to move it along here. So 306 West Oak Street. The folks were evicted, as I reported last month, and they secured the building. They boarded it up. We were waiting on the signed donation agreement to move to closing. We finally have that now. I moved that on to City Attorney Kane Carr to see if it's okay to close. I haven't heard a response back yet, but it should be coming shortly. I don't see any reason why we won't be able to close on that property and move it towards the demolition.
Wonderful.
I gotta make sure I find my place back now. So we're moving on to 100 West
Yep.
Walnut Street. You know, Benny invited Lang Welsh Roofing and PSI out there to take a look at it and see what their thoughts were on saving the structure. I believe the consensus is the number is going to be large. I don't think I heard a number mentioned. Lang Welsh Roofing, they would do nothing until the structure was taken care of on the roof. You know, in that case, you still had the proposal in front of you from Carlisle Architects for the $20,000 to move towards bids for restoration. Moving forward, you know, I invited Lee Farms Excavating out again to give us an estimate on the demolition. And he brought the owner, and his right-hand man came out, and we looked at it thoroughly. Lauren was there. Don had Lauren come out with his lift. We were able to get up on a neighboring property owner's roof and look at some things. A lot of concerns. The freespan truss roof that's been a concern with saving the roof structure. That's a big concern for demolition, because when you come in with equipment and you push on one wall, it's going to push on the other wall, which is, you know, a story or a story and a half higher than the neighboring building. So
There was a mention of a lot of handwork being done and, you know, to get that building down to where it's safe to move with heavy equipment. Another concern is all the electrical wires in the alley. So I called Ameren again. They had been out there before to look at it. You know, the electrical wires are maybe, you got the primary feeds are up there, or maybe 6 feet off that building, and they're right there. There are some secondary feeds were, you know, 2 or 3 feet off the building. So Ameren said that they would be able to kill the secondary feeds. The primaries would have to stay. They could sleeve them with plastic. They would be able to lean the one pole on the corner of the alley and 3rd Street to the north and be able to move the primaries away from the structure. And then there's the signal feed. The traffic signal feed also would need to be disconnected. I believe Lauren said a 4-way stop would be neat.
A 4-way stop during the process, so depending on the time frame of construction, it's gonna slow down traffic there.
Would we have to close 3rd Street during that demo project?
I would say yes. At least during until they get down to the 1st floor, I would say yes.
In addition to that, for Ameren to lean that pole, they would have to chisel some of the concrete out in the apron in the alley, so there would be some repair on the city. They also mentioned there could be some sidewalk damage from demolition also. As far as costs for Ameren, they said a big zero. They would do it for out of their goodness of their hearts. Another concern that Lee had is the neighboring structure. He recommends that we employ an engineer, SKS Engineering, out of Decatur, Illinois, specific for looking at the demolition and can the building be safely demolished without affecting the neighboring structure. So I called the owner, or not the owner, but a representative, this David Gaskin from SKS Engineering. He estimated that to come and do the site inspection and do a written report would be approximately $3,000. He felt comfortable with the $3,000 number. That would not include any design work if any shoring would be involved to safely bring the building down. That would only tell us what we could or could not do as far as safely demolishing the J.C. Penney building and not affecting the neighboring structure.
I'd say you'd still need to have him be ready to give that shoring figure if we need it.
I recommend that you spend the $3,000 and have
Yep.
them take a look at the building and get that report.
That's a lot cheaper than the 19 with Carlisle. So all we're going to go with Carlisle is we'll spread it out amongst the farther places, but we may not get any bids from that either. So unfortunately, you know, as much as I'd love to save this building, I'd started saying about 6 months ago, but dollars are going to rule the day, and it looks like demolition. And I've mentioned to outside groups, I've had a lot of people, oh, we got to save this, we got to save it. And I said, then it's going to have to be a grassroots where you're getting a GoFundMe or whatever, and haven't heard anything back. So I think the demolition is the route that we're going to have to go.
I will add, I did have Langlois Roofing and PSI come down at no charge to the city because of my past relationship with those two companies. They were happy to come down and help us out at no charge. We're trying to get every avenue we can and every
Yep.
angle before we
Take it
go
down.
any
I
further.
know we'd contacted PSI, Jones and Downs or whatever, Johnson and Downs.
Johnson and Downs had looked at it.
And they looked at it, and we haven't heard back from them.
No
so
response.
I got a
Heritage has
feeling
looked at
that a lot of people are just gun shy of this whole project.
Yeah.
So I think this is the best route. I've resigned myself to it. And like I said, if the grassroots all of a sudden pops in and say, hey, we've been able to raise $2 million for this thing, then we listen, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
No, then we sell the building to them.
Then we sell the building to them.
It's sold.
Yeah, I mean, and the whole thing of it, we
All
bought it for
yours.
$8,000.
Yeah.
It would be,
Okay,
to me, it
you
would be great to
You said
say.
3,000
Yes,
for that design?
to have him do an inspection and give us a report.
Okay, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, go ahead and do a roll.
Kathy?
We can't go that quick, unfortunately.
Mensch,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mercier,
Aye.
Delar,
Aye.
Barrigree,
Aye.
Cahill,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Rolfs,
Aye.
Mayor.
Aye.
Alden Beargree does have a comment.
I said, it was going to say that it's a shame to have to lose that building, but I think it's gonna turn into a money pit.
Yeah.
I've thought that for a while, and I've been for tearing it down for a while, so I'm glad to see that we're moving in that direction.
I agree.
Great history. Man, if they could save the front thing and let us keep that, but I know they got salvage rights.
Okay, well, no, that's what we've been discussing. I've talked to the museum, and they're going to put it before their board if they can make an area that we could possibly display that over there on their grounds. That'd be the top, the Stevens Brother Opera House, 1884.
Or maybe temporary and then put it back in front of there.
Well, that
which
is a
would be-
possibility.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess it
So,
depends
so
what
I
we-
talked to Lee about saving that, you know, I said, give us a cost plus. He went up on Lauren's lift and tapped on the one cornice bracket. It's all just sheet metal, so it's pretty delicate. So,
It may not survive it.
you know, yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, if nothing else, maybe we can recreate it.
Yeah.
Good point.
Probably the first thing that's.
Enough pictures of it at the right elevation, and anybody can damn near 3D print one, but.
Benny, would this be your shared wall thing that you found? So
What's that?
I
would
have
this
the
be your
photos.
shared wall thing?
Yes.
So maybe we can do a nice mural on the side once we get this sign ordinance.
And I do have the photos that Benny brought along tonight. I'm gonna scan all of those and digitally enhance them so they're all as
Yeah, maybe a display like they did in the
Yeah, absolutely.
story
I mean,
boxes out there. Yep.
this is
No,
some
Something
pretty
that
good history.
provides
I resigned
the
myself to the
history.
fact a
Yep.
little while ago myself.
Yep.
As much as I wanted to save this thing.
I want to remind everyone that the asbestos has been abated in the building already. I just want to get that out there. And as a positive of that happening, the asbestos abatement crew chopped a couple holes in the floor in the front of the building in the crawl space area. But it helped the engineers that's looked at it so far. They've been able to look down in that crawl space area and see the foundation and see the rot that's going on the ends of the floor joists. And it was a negative when it happened, but it ended up being a positive because.
Two
more
other
eyes
potential costs. Mary's already got her figures. I've told the Elks to go ahead. That would be based, and I told the Elks that would be based off what the demolition company would want done.
Yep.
So
You know, I asked about the Elks, and they don't really feel that
Okay.
they'll need to shut down the Elks.
Good.
But if that happens, it'd be nice to
I
have the
just knew it was
figures.
close. So
Yeah.
Good.
Any more on J.C. Penney building? Sign ordinance. So I put this in everyone's box a week or so ago. You know, this is the last draft that we've worked on. It's been, boy, I don't know, I believe 2023, maybe we've brought this up before. You know, I'm comfortable with everything in here. There's a lot of positives versus the ordinance that we have now that's really lacking. You know, since 1982, signs have come a long way. You know, it's just it's progressive. The signs are always progressing. You know, now we're into the digital display signs. So all of that's addressed in here. The one thing I do want to mention, and Don and Benny has both mentioned it, I think you guys are all interested in murals being painted on buildings. You know, you like that idea. I think we all like that idea. We want to make sure, you know, right now painted signs are not allowed on the buildings according to this ordinance. I think they could be allowed, you know, maybe fit them within the square footage of a wall sign and allow painted signs, but we want to make sure that
that's for advertising, but mural I think could be big too.
we got to make sure that the definition does not include murals.
Because I
So-
did talk with Carol Kaufman, and she's interested on the side of Johnny Martin's on the west side, as that's coming in for that traffic. And talked to Johnny today. He's still in favor, would like to see what's going on there, but that would be a nice size mural. And you know, once we get the walls taken care of on the, I'm going to call it the Shorty's lot, that would probably be a nice area for one for the guys coming in from the east. So I think we want to have this option open. Carol's excited about trying to get something together. And I'm going to go one thing further. I talked to Justin Nichols. I said, hey, what about some kind of metal thing that we could do to enhance as long as it's removable? Because it looks like we're going to, the next time it comes around, we only missed that streetscape grant by 1 point. And Neil Pigosh, after an IDOT meeting, said he's very comfortable that we're going to receive that $3 million later on. So we want to be able to move it and stuff like that. Nichols liked the what we've done so far on the, and it's just a start on the Here lot or the Horner Park area. So, you know, there's a few things, and I told him let's get some renderings and let's get some things and see if we can sponsor some with some of this promotion money that we got coming in. So,
And an example of a painted sign is the one at the dance studio.
That Carol just completed.
That's not a mural, that's a sign.
That's a sign.
So,
We want to make sure signs are not included in here that,
I mean, it looks
we
great.
want murals allowed.
right.
And I believe painted signs are fine.
I think it's kind of a
I'd like
mural,
a
kind of a
consensus
sign.
from
I
y'all.
get
I
what you're
think
saying.
painted
Studio
signs
sign
are
looks
fine.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
She did a great
So,
job on
so
it.
And-
I'll have that change made, but if you guys could really take some time and look through it and see
Sonia's
if
getting
there's
ready
just
to do a
anything you
Watsika
can't
thing
live
going
with
across
in
her
there,
side of that
or if
thing.
you know a
So-
business owner that, you know, says, hey, you know, why do you want to not allow this sign, or for whatever reason, just bring it back. I'm not asking for any movement on this yet. It's been going on for 2 years now, but we need to move it along. It's needed. It's needed. So any input would be appreciated. And then the other ordinance we've been working on is floodplain ordinance. Back in November, we talked about it, you know, it was the one word cumulative, substantial damage, substantial improvement. That's not in the ordinance now. The ordinance that we have now that does not include cumulative, that's not on record down at the state. They never approved that ordinance. The ordinance that they have on file down there that's been approved by them was from 2011, I believe, which had cumulative in there. So the states, you know, they've been under the assumption that cumulative has been in there. So we've been working on that. We started out with the state model floodplain ordinance. I sent it to Robinson. Robinson did their thing. They worked on it. They put everything in there that they felt that we needed. And I just want to back up a little bit. The floodplain ordinance as it stands now, it's commingled with the stormwater management ordinance. So for the average person that goes into the ordinance, yeah, we're separating it out. Kankar agreed with that. You know, he feels that it's going to be better separated out as a standalone ordinance. So Robinson did their thing. We sent it down to the state. The state had some comments. Brought it back and sent it back to Robinson and Kankar both. So Kankar made his changes. Robinson's made their changes. I've read through it. I think I got one little tweak, and I don't know if Keith had a question or two on it. I know the guy that did the work was out of town for a week or so, but I'll get together with Keith on that. So I just want to let you know we are working on it. We're getting close. But, you know, ultimately, the state has to approve everything that we put in that thing, so.
I don't want to prolong anything, but can you simply explain to us and maybe the public the minor difference that is critical, that the wording is critical about
So
the reason behind
cumulative
it?
is, you know, if you sustain any damage, if you reach over, say if your house is worth $50,000 and your damage is $25,001, that's over 50%.
Okay.
So then your structure has to comply with the floodplain ordinance and be elevated, demolished, or moved out of the floodplain. Cumulative, that's where maybe you sustain $12,000 damage in 1 year, whether it be flood, fire, wind, or whatever, and then you sustain another $13,001 another year, whether it be a flood, fire, tornado, earthquake, or whatever. You're able then to have that structure elevated,
Okay.
or demolished, or moved out of the floodplain.
So it's a possible
The
restart.
damages accumulate.
It's a very positive thing that with that word in there to help the homeowner recover
The damage.
more property, and more value to the
And this is
property.
what has been enforced in the past.
Okay.
Any more on floodplain ordinance? You guys are getting quiet, I like that. 1315 West Lafayette Street, that's the old St. Peter's Body Shop. I'm gonna ask, you know, nothing has been done with that structure in years. Nothing's been done with it since I've been here. The roof is sagging, oftentimes the weeds gets up. I get after the owner, he'll chop the weeds down a little bit. The structure's in poor shape, there's broken windows out there. Part of the roof, I believe, on the west side is collapsed already. You know, the rest of the roof looks like it could collapse at any time. I'm in favor of having attorney pursue a demolition order on this structure, if everybody else is in agreement.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Down the other end? Good?
That's one that people have asked several times about. And they say, well, if you want to improve or beautify the town, you need to start with your entrances.
Yep. And man, that'd be a great place to put some kind of special entry way into the city, so.
Thank you. And then one more other lot purchase, 223 East Walnut. I want to give Mayor credit on that. I've been dealing with the property owner and not getting far. I know he was letting his attorney handle things. His attorney had some health problems and was out of the picture for a month or two. But the mayor's really pursued this and stuck with it, and we are moving towards a closing. So
Hanford Lot by Jiffy Lube. We squeaky wheeled it.
So that will become city property, hopefully by next month, by July.
Yay.
Awesome.
We're there.
And just side note, you're thinking that you guys could possibly do the tuck pointing? We're working with the mortar somewhat and possibly painting? And removing concrete and possibly painting that, or do you want somebody?
No, we're just painting the portion of the building that was a shared wall, right? We're not painting.
Yep,
that whole-
shared wall, shared wall.
Yeah, we have the lift, we might as well utilize it.
I thought you could paint a guy that, have him going up those stairs. Just paint a guy walking up the stairs.
Oh,
That'd be cool.
mural time, baby.
Make it
Mural
more fun.
time.
Mural time,
Paint
mural
the-
time.
Paint the guy falling down the
Yes,
stairs.
that's what I was gonna say. Because I think it used to be a bar.
I think we're stretching this meeting out here a little bit. Bill, you're up next.
I think we're
That's all I
close.
have. If
Eric, you got anything on Nettie Davis School?
no, you know, I reached out to Ron Davis about that to see if the state would possibly have some money for demolition, and he felt that, you know, they had applied for a grant